Lindell,
Here.
and Pidd here. That brings us to number 3, which is the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second the motion.
I've got a motion by Mr. Altoff and a second by Mr. Daniels. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the approval of the minutes from the June 11th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to number 5, which is public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Please approach the microphone and before speaking, give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is anyone here for something other than what's already on the agenda?
Is it on the agenda for the zoning and planning of the lot on Cedar Hill?
Yep, that's in. All right, seeing no public input, that'll bring us to number 6, which is a public hearing, conditional use permit for Cree. And at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Wonderful, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Barsness, and I live at 6526 Cedar Hills Drive, and I moved there 2 years ago. My lot is directly north of the lot that we're here to speak about tonight. At the beginning of June, I came home to an established lot behind me, demolished with no warning. I had concerns and was afraid I may not be heard, so thank you for giving me this opportunity. I called the city on June 18th to speak to the planning member about placing a privacy fence on my property since it was told me by neighbors that a house would be placed directly behind me. I was told on June 19th that the city planning member had spoken to Mr. Cree and that he was unaware he needed a building permit. I find this hard to believe since Mr. Cree owns J&K Builders of Cannon Falls and has built multiple homes in the area. Since that phone call on June 18th, there has been no movement on the lot. The lot, however, is being taken over by noxious weeds, including poison ivy, that is now creeping onto the property line. Tonight I would like to show you some before and after photos and ask some questions so that I better understand why a lot I was told by many when I moved in 2 years ago was unbuildable and lay empty for 25 years is currently under construction. Here's my pictures. I'll just kind of pass them. So my first question is, does Cannon Falls have a code enforcer? Will this enforcer monitor the work done on this lot? Is this lot buildable? How will Mr. Cree control drainage? How will Mr. Cree access the road since he has asked permission of Cannon Falls Chiropractic to use their property to access his? Has Mr. Cree's plan been assessed and approved? Are you aware that Mr. Cree owns another property for his business in the same neighborhood? Is it in the plans that Mr. Cree is to replant the trees and vegetation that he has removed from the lot? Is it reasonable for someone to destroy all trees from an established lot, leaving no buffer from the neighbor? If this property is unbuildable or the cost outweighs, would Mr. Cree take an offer to sell? I have read the rules pertaining to excavation The rules of planning and zoning were not followed by Mr. Cree at the early stages of this process because he states he was unaware he needed permits. So I'm asking as a taxpayer to be promised by the city that Mr. Cree will be held accountable to follow all the rules and will be monitored closely and that they will be followed. I appreciate your time that you have given me to speak. Thank you.
Sam, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So, I'll try to answer as many of those questions that I could get to. So the first one, Cannon Falls does have a code enforcer. That would be myself.
Okay.
We operate on a complaint-only basis. When it comes to monitoring this lot, when it was approached to me that there was activity on this lot, that is how I got into contact with the Crees and got them to this point that we are at today. When it comes to lot access, I have not been told anything from the applicants regarding access to the lot. That would be required to be approved by the city, what direction they would want to access the lot from, what street. It would be between myself, the police and fire departments. Everybody would have to be on the same page when it comes to access for that lot. And so that would be something discussed if we move forward from this point tonight. When it comes to drainage control and the permits that may have been needed before, they did get an excavation permit from the city. Their excavator did. That allowed them to go in and do the tree removal and all of the dirt work that's been happening. When it comes to drainage control, that information will need to be provided to our city's engineer and approved before the home can be put on the lot. That information will need to be provided by the applicants and approved. Let's see. When it comes to replanting the trees that were taken down, it is a property owner's right to take down as many trees as they want on their property. We do require that at least 2 trees be planted for every new home that is put in a development. Was there any other questions?
Yeah, so has his plan been assessed or approved?
No, that is
Okay.
what we are here for tonight. Yep.
And then, is it reasonable for, you said, somebody to take down, they can do whatever?
Yes.
Okay. There was some trees on the property line that were removed on our side.
Okay.
Are they planning on replanting trees that may have been lost on my side?
I am not sure of that. I would have to talk to them about that.
Okay. And then, as a neighborhood, will we be kept up to date on things that are happening on that lot? Because since I spoke on June 18th with you, there's just been a pile of dirt that we've had to stare at now for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep. So kind of what happened, I think, is we discovered that they would need this conditional use permit and everything kind of stopped because without this permit, nothing can happen.
Right.
After this permit is issued, the neighbors wouldn't necessarily be notified that, say, the engineering has passed
Okay.
or things like that. You would know by seeing work being done.
Okay.
If nothing's being done, it hasn't been approved.
Yep. All right. And is it abnormal that someone who has been in the building company for years wouldn't know that they needed to go through this process?
This was a recent addition possibly to our city code back in 2006. I know that the Crees weren't aware of this addition to our city code. And this isn't, the conditional use permit isn't a building permit. A building permit goes through the county and is for the structure itself. This is for the city's zoning and planning. So this is something that is more strange or different about this particular project. So it's not surprising that they wouldn't know they needed this.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for
Yeah,
your answers, and thank you guys again for your time. I appreciate it.
Is there any further discussion from the public?
Bruce?
Go ahead.
I'm Bruce Johnson, live next door on the downhill side. And this lot has been empty, unbuildable for 40-plus years from the Cannon Falls Township. It's too straight up, there's no runoff, everything is gonna come on me, period. You can see for those pictures, I don't know what the elevation is, it's 30, 36 inches, 20 inches off the lot line, straight up. I know Mike's been by there and looked at it. I mean, it's obvious, everything is gonna go straight downhill into my property. I've been in there 30 years. Never had a problem. And there's gonna be a problem now. If that place can be excavated to keep the, I don't care if it's the rain, the snow, or whatever, on that property and not my property, I don't have a problem. But it can't be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's our next step?
Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? Going once, twice? All right. At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing for the conditional use permit for the Cree project. That brings us to discussion item resolution 2018-5, conditional use permit Cree.
After hearing all of the testimony and everything, it's up to Planning Commission to decide. We can approve the conditional use permit to move the house in, and the Crees would have to comply with building and zoning codes as they are. We can approve it with conditions that say we want to see specific information on drainage. The city engineer needs to approve this before anything moves, anything goes further, or we can deny it, or we can table it. Lots of options, but it's up to you all.
Has the city engineer done a survey yet?
No.
Okay. That's kind of a no-brainer. We gotta have that. And I think that'll, and what else can we do that might be helpful here?
Jerry, do you have any pictures of the home you're moving in? Do you have any pictures of the home?
Not of the home yet. We'll start off with, here's a photography map of the lot. How the house is gonna be placed on there, retaining wall, so
Is that a topography map?
forth. Pardon?
How steep a slope you got?
Bruce Johnson's lot goes, I built that house, the same type of house, and that lot looked worse than this one when we started.
So,
We built 35 houses in that area, and 17 of them are modular of this type.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
We're really not moving another house in. We're bringing a module, 2 modules in.
So it's a modular, it'd just be in 2 pieces?
Yes.
Yep.
Like Bruce's house was brought in 4 pieces. And they'll be set with a crane on a concrete basement. And,
Does this house have a basement on it then, or is it on a slab? Is it on a slab or is it on a basement?
no, it's gonna be a full basement.
Full basement. Walkout on that
Walkout.
backside?
Here's the certificate of insurance of the builder, and this is the state inspections. The house is already built, ready to be brought in,
So this is a brand new house?
brand new.
Okay.
This is
That's the way they do it.
UBC building code 100%.
Doesn't sound like the house is an issue. Doesn't sound like the house is the issue. It
It's
sounds like,
the runoff and the
Drainage seems to be an
drainage.
issue right here, right now. The what? Drainage.
yeah, but I'm not
That's the engineers.
yeah. Here you go. Yeah, the house isn't the issue, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't. It's a city store.
And all the houses in the area are modular houses to start with, so.
So, Sam, what is it? Is it the fact that it's a modular that all of a sudden it's a conditional use permit as opposed
Yes,
to?
it is the
Okay.
fact that it is being brought in. It's not being constructed from the ground up on site.
There you go.
'Cause it looks like the property itself is zoned for residential
Correct.
already.
So is there gonna be a retaining wall in between
Pardon?
you? Is there gonna be a retaining wall you're putting in?
Yes, we will be putting in some tanks. And after looking at the map here, I think I'm gonna drop the garage 2 feet lower than the house. And that will cut off a lot of the less drainage problems.
I already looked at this.
I assure you, there'll be no more runoff there after it's built than there is now. Probably less.
There was never any runoff. And now from the pictures, you can see there is runoff.
And the city caused part of the problem themselves. They raised that road 4 feet from what the original road grade was. Plus, they paid about $40,000 in assessments over the years. If it was an unbuildable lot, they should have never assessed it.
Well, yeah, no, the way that it's zoned, it doesn't appear to me that zoning is the problem. It appears that the neighbors there are not used to having company that close. I mean,
Would you want
Your
something?
lot looked just like that when I built that house.
Yeah, well,
And
that
that lot
was
looked just like
in
the one this one.
1980. So,
If you bring in some fill and use a little ingenuity, you can do anything.
yep, that's why you need to give the city your,
What's that?
that's why you need to give the city your plans before you just
Well,
start
that's what
tearing
we're
stuff
doing.
down and
Huh?
Yeah, we're doing that because there was a phone call made.
Phone call.
You know, I think the issue itself is really, from what Sam has said, it's the conditional use permit itself doesn't revolve around drainage. It revolves around the type of house that he's planning on putting
It's
in.
always been,
He's not
it's
building
always
the house
been
there.
trees and brush in there, right? Since you guys can remember, so, you know, that's gone now? Not all of it?
Well, it's pretty much clear that there's a buffer in the back of trees between the
Yeah.
dentist and the chiropractor, but on each side, trees have been removed as on the lot itself.
Okay.
But that needed to be done so you could put a house there.
Yeah.
Also, in order to get the surveyor and not do the photography map, he couldn't do with all that brush in there.
Yeah.
The lot's been for sale for 40 years. Anybody could have bought it, added it to their property if they wanted it.
I never saw a for sale sign, or I would have bought that 2 years ago. I have asked other neighbors to get their phone numbers to buy that lot since I moved in. And there has never been a for sale sign, because I guarantee I would have bought that.
Who decided it was unbuildable?
So if it was for sale, that,
What's our options? Table it until the engineer looks at it, or?
Yeah, we should have the engineer
You gotta have an engineer in there.
plan for
that-
drainage.
See what's gonna happen now that all that shrubbery's been removed and stuff. You can't just assume it's gonna be okay for Johnson down there. Can you?
Isn't
Huh?
that who did the survey?
Can't hear you.
Isn't that who was on that survey that we just looked at?
No, that
John?
was just his own.
Oh,
It's just a topographical map.
gotcha.
That's just, yeah, it's gotta be looked at by city engineer or somebody.
I don't have a problem with the house, but I guess I'd make a motion that we table it until Greg, the city engineer, looks it over with his recommendation.
How long will that take?
Well, it'll be another month.
Yeah, it could come back at the August meeting, which is August 13th, maybe, something.
Well, usually with these public hearings, there's the one here, right?
Correct.
And then the city council gets it.
Yep. So if we
They actually get it twice, don't they?
once.
It's just once on this one?
Yep.
Okay.
So if we table it here, it would come back here to the planning commission mid-August. Then it would go to city council the third Tuesday of August.
What about the next city council meeting? When is that?
The
Week from
The
tomorrow.
next week, yep,
Week from
next
tomorrow?
Tuesday.
We do it then? Could they do it?
If you approved the conditional use permit tonight, that would mean you're approving it without the engineer's approval.
Well, no, not necessarily. We can always
Yeah.
approve it on the condition that the city engineer
Yep.
has a chance
Yep,
to.
But he won't be able to review it by next Tuesday.
You don't think he'll be able to see it?
On vacation?
No, I just know how he's very busy, so he couldn't do it within 1 week. If you approve it with the condition of engineering approval, it could maybe make it to the first meeting in August.
Yeah, engineered on contingent.
You gonna make that motion?
I'll make that motion that we table this until Greg, the city engineer, surveys the property.
No,
His recommendations, right?
And makes his recommendations, right.
Gotta protect, yeah.
That's all
I'll
right?
second that.
All right, I've got a motion from Mr. Altoff and a second by Mr. Hema to table the the resolution 2018-5. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
There's a possibility if the planning commission meets before the first council meeting, you know, it would speed it up next month. I don't know. Dates fall here.
I think, let's see. So the next planning commission meeting is August 13th. The first city council meeting in August is August 7th. It's hard for me to say when Greg will have this ready by. I think August 13th is a good time frame to give him. He does have a lot on his plate right now with other projects and everything, and so I would say the 13th is a good amount of time to give him. We can always, planning commission members are always allowed to call special meetings. Those have to be approved by a certain number of the commission members, and it would depend on what date and all of that. So in my opinion, waiting until the 13th is the best idea, because that's just the time frame that we can work with.
Okay.
All right. That brings us to the public hearing for the conditional use permit for Cannon River Winery. Are we holding those public hearings?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So,
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for the conditional use permit for Cannon River Winery. Is there anyone from the public here for that? Okay. Hearing no one, we'll close the public hearing for the conditional use permit, Cannon River Winery. Should we just run through the public hearings and then hit the discussion
yeah,
items?
that's fine. Yeah.
All right. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for the variance for the Cannon River Winery. Is there any public input? All right. Hearing none, I'd like to close the variance Cannon River Winery public hearing. That brings us to Resolution 2018-6, Conditional Use Permit Winery.
Okay. So, as we all know, the winery is looking to expand their facility. They did not provide us any additional information than what we got at that original meeting back in April, I believe. And what we had talked about and what it was determined by the Planning Commission to table those items until a future date. The state of Minnesota has a statute that says a application has 60 days to be approved or denied by the Planning Commission and the City Council, or it is automatically approved. The city extended the 60 days for an additional 60 days, which it would be 120 days since the application, putting us into August. The winery has not provided any additional information to us, so at this meeting tonight, we are recommending denial of the conditional use permit because we need to make a decision before that 120 days runs out, or else the application is considered approved. Myself and the interim city administrator, Linnell Andres, did meet with Ron Stoll today. He has other matters that are taking his attention away from this expansion. Therefore, he has kind of put it on the back burner. I don't know myself what that means for things like the purchase agreements from the city and the EDA. things like that. What I know is from my side with the conditional use permit. So tonight, we have to deny the applications. Our city statute says that an applicant can come back 6 months after a denial. That would put him into January, February of next year. He can reapply, provide us with all of the information we need, and we'll be back starting fresh over. But for tonight, we have to have action on this item, or else, like I said, it is automatically approved.
I'll make a motion that we deny the conditional use permit for the Can River Winery.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion by Mr. Altoff and a second by, it's kind of a tie between Daniels and Lundell, but all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to Resolution 2018-7 variance for the winery.
Make a motion to deny lack of evidence.
I've got a motion by Mr. Daniels to deny
Second.
and a second by Mr. Hema. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to number 8, which is Planning Commission member comments. Anybody got anything?
All I can say is the Can River Winery, we give him ample time to do this, and he's got other problems besides, so let's put it on the back burner. He can come and reapply next year if he wants to do it.
Yeah, stuff happens, I guess. You know?
Other than that, the Crees thing, nothing, not a problem with the house. It's just like, I think I would like the engineer to look at that and discuss, look at the drainage situation there before we approve it.
Sped up a bit though, or
If we can, it's kind of up what Greg can do. He's got the east side project going right now.
We were gonna do this last year, prices that went $30,000 more this year. I don't wanna put it off another year.
Yeah, I
I'm
understand.
80 years old, what the hell?
time is getting short.
You're a lucky guy. Yeah.
I don't have any.
Nothing.
Nothing? That brings us to number 9, which is adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I've got a motion by Mr. Lundell and a second by Mr. Altoff. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the